I wasn't planning to do a video for this and then changed my mind at the last moment, so the lighting and focus are not quite as good as usual. My GBA SP that I bought second hand some time ago has seen some things over the years. It's quite scratched up and I've always wanted to add a screen replacement so it's easier to see what's going on. I bought a HIGHSPEEDIDO V5 laminated IPS display and shell replacement. Links to buy everything in the description. Here's what comes with the HIGHSPEEDIDO kit, as well as the screwdrivers and replacement back sticker. The display is pre-laminated, which makes it much easier to install, as well as getting no dust etc. on the display and the protector. You will also notice two pads which are touch controls for the display, which I will show later. From memory, the only original parts you really need are the hinge mechanism. Everything, including new screws, buttons, membranes, covers and stickers, are included. First, I start with unscrewing the battery compartment screw and remove the original battery. It still works after all these years, but definitely has a shorter battery life. There are 6 security screws holding the case together, which requires the included screwdriver to be used. And it's open. There's a fair bit of grime on the shell, but the board itself looks to be in great condition. There are 3 screws holding the board to the shell which need to be removed. The board can now be slowly lifted up as there's a ribbon cable joining to the display. It comes out quite easily. We need to disassemble the case further to remove the hinge mechanisms. So starting with the display, I removed the screw covers which have kind of melted over the years. And after, I removed the screws holding the display section together. The display ribbon cable can now be fed back through the hinge compartment and be freed. The right hinge can now be pushed out a little when the shell is closed, and then fully pushed out when the shell is open. The left hinge is a bit easier to remove by gently separating the top and bottom of the shell. Both hinges have coloured caps on them which need to be removed and replaced with the new ones. Now on to putting everything together, starting with the display. I removed the shipping protector and some sticker film and placed it in the front of the new shell. I put the shipping protector back on in case of it getting scratched. You need to curl the ribbon around the hinge compartment so it sticks out of the empty compartment. I then fitted only 2 of the screws just to hold the shell together in case there were any issues. The bottom half contains the buttons and membranes with cardboard, which conveniently keeps everything in place whilst working on the assembly. The 2 halves of the shell then fit together and the ribbon cable can be fed through to the lower half. The new coloured caps can then be fitted onto the hinges. I did not notice at first, but I had not fully fitted them, so with a small adjustment they fitted fine. The hinges can only be put in one way, again whilst the case is closed, and will not fully insert. Once partly inserted, you open the case and they will fully go in. The hinge cover can now be fitted, but make sure it doesn't catch the ribbon. And the cover screw can now be fitted. Now for the trickiest part, fitting the display ribbon back onto the main board. It was hard to get on camera, but this is probably the easiest angle to fit the cable. The following part is optional if you want the brightness button to control the display brightness and on-screen menu, instead of only using the touchpads. It requires just a single wire to be soldered onto the main board, to a solder point on the display ribbon. I pre-soldered the pads and then soldered the wire into place. I did a quick check to ensure everything was fitting properly. I then added the speaker filter and the new speaker to fully replace the faulty one. Apparently it's also a bit louder. The board screws can now be refitted. There is a small screw nut that does come with the new shell, but I ended up taking it off the original one. It is for the battery compartment screw. Next, the volume slider needs to be fitted to the board. It only goes in one way, so it's easy to fit. Then the back half of the case can be fitted, and all of the screws can go back in, then the battery and the screw to keep the lid closed. I did a quick check off camera to see if everything was working. It was, so I finished closing everything back up on the display and put the rubber caps back into the screw holes. Next, we are jumping to a day after filming this, as I wanted to get the original back sticker off the case and onto the new one. The kit does come with a replica sticker, but the original is better. We have a heat gun at work, so one of our staff, Chris, kindly helped get the sticker off and placed it onto the new shell. He did a great job, as you can see. You won't see it on the following part of the video, as I filmed that the day before. There's also a replacement Nintendo logo sticker. The original was quite scratched up, so I decided to use the new one for this, as it looks practically identical. Time for a before upgrade view and a quick transition to after. The new display instantly looks brighter and everything is definitely easier to see on screen. The new shell looks great and the speaker volume is definitely louder and working properly. Let's take a look at some of the features of the display. You can now touch the areas at the bottom of the display. One is to cycle through the colour palettes. The second is the display brightness touchpad. It's handy if you don't want to solder. There's 15 brightness levels to cycle through. When the brightness button is soldered, you can tap it to cycle through the brightness levels. You can also hold it down for a few seconds to bring up the menu. Here you can change the brightness, colour mode, pixel effects, desaturation, FRM enable or disable, which a couple of games may require enabled, and to enable or disable the touchpads. One little addition to keep the shell clean was a clear plastic case that fits very well. It won't help much if dropped, but it should be great for scratches whilst in your bag. Overall, the HIGHSPEEDIDO IPS display and everything that come with it is a fantastic upgrade for your GBA SP. I definitely recommend one if you have a GBA SP laying around and probably in a similar condition to mine. There's some links in the description to learn more about it and buy one in a variety of shell colours and designs. That's about it for this unplanned video. I hope you enjoy it. Thanks for watching and don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss out on the next one.